Don't ask any questions. Don't worry that it's a lie. It's game time for this election. Joe Biden is a clown who, on his best days, it's an insult to the notion of the presidency that this guy would be in charge of anything. Joe Biden might lose this election. It was very close. People sometimes, I think, forget that when you actually look at where it mattered with the states, not even getting into all the discussion about what was done where and the way things were rigged and all the rest of it. But they knew their job was to use the credibility that they had to have led people at these institutions, at these agencies where, as you know, people have given their lives for their country. They've given time with their kids. They've given marriages. They've given everything to try to serve the mission. And they decided to use the credibility from the very top level, not some little nobody from back in the day like me, somebody who was really senior in the process, the most senior people. They used the credibility of those agencies and what was sacrificed by people who did real work and put themselves on the line in order to propagate a lie to throw an election. That is third world banana republic bullshit. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it. And I think that we enter this scary time because when you have a regime that does not feel bound by, never mind traditions and conventions, but law that we're all supposed to agree on, which I do not think you have with the Democrat left. And I have criticisms of Republicans too, and we can get into some of that. But when you have a regime that does not feel bound by tradition and law, and you have an intelligence service or an intelligence apparatus that feels its primary mission is to the regime and not to the people and not to the Constitution, really bad things can happen. And I do believe that is where we are.
I do too. I 100% believe that. I mean, do you think there's any turning back?
Oh God, I mean, I like to think that there's always room for optimism, and there's always hope that things can start to move in a better direction. Here's my. Let me tell you I'll kind of war game out the concern, and then maybe you and I can both come to how this can get a lot better. One of the biggest challenges we have is, I think, as things in this country become more tyrannical, and I do believe that's the appropriate word. And you could say, oh, but what about Trump won? And then and Republicans and this. The agenda and the change continues even when we win elections. Mm-hmm. This is because of the seizure, because of the control of so many of the choke points, platforms, levers of power within our society, politically and outside of the immediate realm of politics. The agenda continues, and our notion of this as a country bound by the Constitution, where the individual is the paramount, the individual is the highest realm of freedom, rights, and the need to protect from the state, that is dwindling, I think, very, very rapidly. And I think that if you look at it on a broader spectrum, instead of just thinking, oh, well, today is fine, yesterday was fine, maybe tomorrow will be great too. They've already indicted a former president, who's he is a likely next Republican candidate. They've indicted him on the most absurd grounds imaginable. If you gathered together a bunch of law school students, you gave them a project, said, come up with the flimsiest felony prosecution of a politician or of a person you could, I think that this would win the prize, right? A payoff to a porn star that was supposed to be labeled as a campaign expense. It makes no sense. No one believes this makes any sense, but they did it. And I've been saying all along, well, why do they do it, right? People ask this question, why do they do it? And I say, well, because they are building. They're building to bigger things against Trump and against the movement. And I think you're going to see an indictment coming from Georgia in the summer. I think given the incitement, the sedition, conspiracy to commit sedition, or whatever the official federal jargon may be. But they've got effectively sedition or treason charges on the books now against some of the January 6 guys. And I think eventually they're going to hit Trump with a sedition charge, effectively call him a traitor. And now for people who say they can't really want to do that because of what that would do to the country, right? I mean, now, how are we different from one of these hellholes where, you and your brothers in arms would have to show up back in the day and like try to stop everybody from just murdering each other in the streets? Like, how different is our political system really over the long term from the political system in those places if we get to the point where the one party's guy, I mean, this is what happens in Russia, right? This is what happens in countries that we mock for how, absurd their system is. This is what you see in like one of the stands where they have elections, but it's 97% goes to the guy who happens to control the secret police. They bring a federal insurrection charge of some kind against Donald Trump, and they finally see through the promise that they've made to the Democrat base, starting all the way back in 2016 with Russia collusion. They have been conditioning their base and their people in this country to be open to the idea of a president who is a traitor, and to believe that we have a president who is a traitor. Now, to people that paid attention to Russia, the people who paid attention to the whole collusion narrative, they understand it's propaganda, it was lies, it was a deep state operation. Okay, fine. They don't care about those people because they don't think they have to. They think they'll have enough to just finally silence the opposition. And what do they really ultimately want? They want a one-party state. What do they have in California? And look, I love California. I'm not saying California is the Soviet Union, but what do they have? They have a one-party state. Mm-hmm. What do they think they can achieve in this country? I think they believe they can achieve. Nominally, it's a democracy, sure, or a republic. But I think they believe they can achieve a de facto one-party state. And the way to do it is to just completely destroy the existing Republican Party by indicting and maybe even imprisoning Donald Trump. And they'll feel good about themselves as they do it because they've convinced themselves that Donald Trump is a traitor to his country, even though the Russia thing's a lie. They don't believe it's a lie.
Do you think they're going to indict Biden or Biden's son? Because it's looking like in the media they're going to go after him.
So this is a great question. Generally speaking, Democrats, as we know, live by an entirely different set of rules, right? When they matter to the party. People say, oh, what about, some city councilman that was found with, a paper bag with $200,000 in it or something. He went away. I'm like, yeah, because they don't care, because the guy doesn't matter, right? Mm-hmm. If you matter to the system, if you matter to what they're trying to achieve, Hillary Clinton's a perfect example of this. I mean, you know this. If I sit down with you, I'm your lawyer, and you tell me, hey, man, look, I kind of wanted to, rock out my own way when I was working with the government. And so I maybe have 100 TS documents just sitting on my server right now. I'd be like, we need to talk about a plea bargain to make sure you see your kids graduate from college. It's bad news, right? This is a bad situation. Hillary Clinton, they just made the whole thing go away. They just made it go away. They didn't even, no plea, no nothing, right? It was sort of, so that's generally how it goes. To the Hunter Biden question. The guy has, based on the fact pattern we know, committed serious and multiple federal felonies. Never mind. The drug use thing, sure, but the stuff that really matters is, and it also wouldn't be past the statute of limitations, would be the money laundering and tax evasion. I think the way this gets handled, and I hate making predictions, especially on a show like this where a lot of people are going to see it. I think the way this goes is he probably they go through the motions to make it seem like he is subject to justice as well, but he gets absolute kid glove treatment. He will probably be made to take a plea agreement to something that will be suspended. He'll get they'll suspend the sentence. It'll be like a prison sentence, but they'll suspend the sentence pending, any other bad behavior. He'll pay some kind of a fine, and maybe he'll lose his law license. Maybe he'll be a convicted felon. But you have to remember, they've already got this all squared away. Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son, and the media narrative around this is Joe Biden has had a lot of personal and family tragedy in his life. Lost his wife in a car accident, lost his son to a brain tumor. So who could blame him for loving and supporting his only remaining child? This is what they're going to say. Now, there's obviously truth in this, and I do think that family bonds are sacred and but they'll say that to excuse the fact that they're then not going to look at, why was this guy getting paid millions of dollars by fronts for the Chinese Communist Party? Why was this guy getting paid, whatever it was, $80,000 a month or $70,000 a month by a Ukrainian energy company for his expertise on something he knows nothing about? I mean, Hunter has expertise in freebasing. You're paying this guy for your Ukrainian. We all know why he's being paid. It couldn't be any more obvious, right? But again,
Why is he being paid?
oh my God, the perception or reality of access to his father and his father's friends at the top of the Democrat hierarchy.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.